I, James, founded and work for HPI, but do not represent them or any of their opinions.
Welcome to Season 9, Episode 332 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Every week, we definitively answer one question about the future of tech. To do that, we take into account many factors, including the companies involved, the people working for them, their marketing, and of course, the technology they're developing. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and my co-host and brother is James Furlo.
Oh, playing it straight in 21-8. I like it. Yeah, man. So this is it.
Yes, so the one question we're going to ask is, what's next for James and Matthew?
Yeah, pretty much. So some of you who, if you're listening for the first time, you happen to also be listening for the last time.
Yeah, sorry about that. Go if it's your first time.
Welcome.
We got a massive catalog of back videos.
It's about 331 other episodes.
Yeah, some
plus
of them
a couple
are good.
special ones in there. Most of them are good. 2 weeks ago was good.
That's true.
There's something implied there. So we're going to talk about that, aren't we?
You know what? It wasn't last week was so bad that it made us decide to quit. But the fact that it wasn't great it didn't help.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just jump right into it here because we actually do want to talk about tech because you know how in the movie Rocky's an amazing movie. Yes. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you haven't seen it in a while, go watch it again. I don't want to give any spoilers because it's great. You've already seen it. We know you have. The movie ends at a super high, like at the highest point possible, at this amazing climactic moment, and then it's just fade to black or fade to American flag, if I remember correctly, or something like that. And that's how I feel like we're going to go out because this was an awesome week to be covering tech. Yes. A ton of stuff happened. And so it's like, yes, we're going to talk about it all. And it's going to be great.
It's going to feel a bit like the old format.
A little bit. We're like, who cares? We're going to get rid of the clock on this one. I am running it, but it was a good habit to bring to the table. Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing. And we mentioned it. I think it actually was a couple weeks back now, maybe 3 weeks. I'm time is blurring on me here. But
the episode that you listed that was good happened to be
was that the one? Yeah. Perfect. There you go.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. So we've been working on our own technology company now I'm losing track of time. I feel like we've been saying 6 months for a while now, but it was closer to like 9 months at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think it's time that we stop talking about tech and we get in the game ourselves. And the way I like to think about it is we're launching a new business that we hope other tech podcasts will want to cover and talk about. In the same way that we cover and talk about tech companies, we want to be one of them now. And one of the things that's become very obvious over these last, I would say like 3 months, really. It's funny, so we record these podcasts Sunday night, and usually it's like half hour of recording. There's probably 10-15 minutes of like pregame talk and stuff like that. But we're actually on the phone for a couple hours. And the rest of the time we're talking about our startup. We're talking about Majordomo. And we talk at least twice a week about Majordomo, and sometimes even more than that. And it's funny, our midweek conversations used to be talking about, oh my gosh, this crazy tech thing happened. Let's pretend to talk about it without actually talking about it because we want to talk about it on the podcast. Now what we do is we talk about Majordomo. And so it's one of those where we've launched a thing. It's, in case you haven't figured it out yet, majordomo.com.
Yeah,
is where you'll find it. And it's still very much in beta. So we're actually super open to feedback. And so if you want to go try it, let us know, how we can make it better. We're actually interested in getting that feedback. There's certain things on there that we know are broken. And that's part of our test on how we did you actually try it? Because you would notice this didn't work if you really went through and tried it. Yeah. So,
Hey, man, nobody told Snapchat what they were doing wrong. They still went, they were super successful with a completely buggy, broken app for years. So, maybe people won't notice. It'll be fine. That was just a
maybe.
jab at Snapchat. I'm going to run out of opportunities to do that pretty soon here. So I'm going to take
That's true.
every opportunity I get.
That's a good point there. Yeah, so in the process of that, we've kind of been talking and just saying like, so this Majordomo thing seems to be working, seems to be moving in the right direction, doing what we would like it to be doing, and it makes sense to focus. One of the things I have on my wall right here is it says, "What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary?" And more working on Majordomo is that one thing. And something I've been trying to focus on is like, okay, how do I reduce the number of spinning plates in my life? Um, and this is one of those spinning plates where we go, man, we love doing it. We love talking. You and I will keep talking about tech as it happens, I'm sure. We just won't be recording it going forward, essentially. And so we still love it. And who knows? We're not going to take the site down. It's still going to be here. There could come a point in time where it makes sense to resurrect this. But this is it. 9 years in, 332 episodes deep. Kind of cool.
Yeah, man.
There was a cool, I'm going to share this tweet of a video of Steve Jobs that I saw this week. And obviously my radar was kind of up a little bit on this as we knew we were getting ready for the show. And I think it's appropriate for us to talk about him since he's probably one of our favorite guys to talk about on the show. He's like giving
the show is because of him. I mean,
that's true.
We got deep into this because of that original iPhone reveal, which,
that's true. That's true.
It's probably not unfair to, anyways, continue.
He's like talking, I think, the new hires, I think. And then he's like, okay, how many of you were actually in manufacturing? He has them raise their hand. And then he goes, how many of you were consultants? And they raise their hand. And he goes, oh, sorry. But he's like, hey, but welcome to the light side. He's like, there's value in having some skin in the game, in doing this yourself, not just being a person who analyzes and looks at other companies, but actually having one yourself and caring about the outcome. So I was like, yes, that's what we're doing. And I thought it was appropriate. So we'll share that tweet with the video. It's a good one because you know how he is. He's good at that stuff. He's obviously not the very first one to ever say that either, but he just says it very eloquently, which I like. And if we're going to give credit to somebody for the idea, we'll give it to him because that also seems appropriate for the podcast. A fingerprint scanner. Apple invented that. Oh, did they? Well, they did it right. Yes. Okay.
Hey, I mean, it's not super unfair to say that.
I know. That's what's awesome about that comment. I love it. I love it. So yeah. So Majordomo, by the way, in case you didn't know, just kind of wanted to talk about it because we love it and you should check it out. It's the reason why we got involved in doing it and are starting this and founding it and doing it is because homes are important. I mean, tech is super important and smart tech is like crazy important to my personal life, but it's only possible for like smart home stuff because of the home itself. Homes are often the most important, the largest asset that somebody owns. And taking care of it is an important thing, to be a good steward of your home. And so one of the things that we want to do is help people take better care of their homes. Now, we're not going to come in and do the work for you. We played around with that idea and it's not scalable, but but we want to empower others to make those decisions, to say, if they want to do it themselves, awesome, do it yourself. If you want to hire someone, cool, we'll help you do that too. But right now, what the tool does is it helps you evaluate the condition of a property. And that's if you're deciding to buy it, to decide how it compares one to another, if it's something that you feel comfortable taking on. If you already own a home and you've lived there a while and are kind of like, okay, what do I do next? Or what should I really pay attention to? It helps you do that. So it's at this point in time, it's a self-help tool for you to help manage your property, to to evaluate its condition. And specifically, we have something that's called a Domo score. That's very much like a credit score for your home, where we boil it all down to a single number. It's kind of fun. I've had some people asking me, like, how did you guys come up with your scale and why that? And like, we have a very good answer. Your home's big, it's complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. And so it deserves a lot of points. It's out of 10,000. And that's why. And we break it all down for you. And so it's a very cool tool. Like I said earlier, it's in beta, so it's still rough. Go ahead.
I will mention this. That 10,000 is not it's not like an asteroids 10,000 where all they do is the lowest score you can get on anything is 100, but so they just took 1 point multiplied by 100. It's actually having coded the algorithm myself. There's enough granularity there. Like, yes, that many numbers actually gives you. Yeah, it's not completely fake.
No, it's not. We almost patented it and decided we didn't want to tell the rest of the world how we're doing it, and so that we ran out of money. So we're not gonna do that. You're laughing about that. It's true. And so it's a cool tool. We have a lot of hopes and dreams for it. I have some papers right here for some mock-ups for a new component we're going to be adding to the site. And so we're working through that right now. We're working, figuring out how to scale things.
How much does it cost, James?
It's for Rizzle. It's free to use. I know we're taking the Google, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, the classic style where eventually the way that we will make money is if you decide, and that's this page actually, this is the money making page right here that I'm looking at that's got the mock-up on it. It's if you decide to do it yourself, we're going to recommend tools and materials that you can use that link to Amazon. And if you click on said link, we get an affiliate referral for it. And then that's probably going to just be like one small way. But the big way is actually we're going to partner with different professionals around the area and say, you don't want to do it yourself. Here's someone we recommend. Here's a local recommendation for someone who can help you do it. And so we will offer membership to those professionals to be part of the platform. And in addition to that, they'll be able to add to contribute to your Domo score. So if they do some work, they can add it to it. If they and it'll add to their profile. So one of the things that we've learned is that they don't like to advertise, but they do like to be members of something. And so that's what we're creating. And we're going to create in essence, a profile page that actually shows off the work that they've done. Because that's the big question, right? Like, what kind of work have you done? I see that you have a nice fancy truck. I see you got a nice website, but like, what's the actual quality of the work? And a lot of people, they could in theory just upload the photos onto Facebook, but people don't go to Facebook looking for professional recommendations. They do look on places like Yelp, but those have ratings. They don't tend to have the pictures of the work that they've done, and the contractor themselves have very little control over what's shown or not. And so we're gonna fit this middle space that's actually kind of needed. And so that's what we're working towards. That's not there yet because we're still just in beta. Like I said, I have a mock-up of a design page that we're gonna use to bring that into life. We have a roadmap, and we think this is something that the world needs. And I know for me personally, having owned a bunch of rentals, it's hard to stay on top of all the maintenance. And this is a tool that would help me, and we think it'll help other homeowners. And so we think it's super cool. And that's what we're going to focus on.
Yeah. Check
it out. It's neat. I think they got a chance of going all the way.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? You've been working on it for a while yourself.
I know. Well, one of the things that I'm going to go a little tech podcast on this, and I'm going to go my normal route on this. I think one of my favorite parts is that I've realized in the last couple of weeks that we've built a pretty sophisticated platform. The goal of it being highly scalable, stable, usable across a lot of different platforms and everything. And like, we've really been trying our hardest to do that. And somehow we've managed to land on a PHP driven site that's HTML and MySQL database. So what is this, the 90s? But it's actually
the 90s.
But it's
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
it's funny because it's like what you realize is that we talk. I think one of the most interesting things to me is as you go into this, I when you're reading about news and you're reading about new companies and stuff, one of the things that new products and new platforms, one of the things you realize is that, man, those are exciting, they're cool, but the old stuff is the old stuff for a reason. Not necessarily because it was built first, but because it lasted the longest. And things like, and then we're not using vanilla PHP, we're using the Laravel framework, which makes all sorts of sophisticated routers and the ability to render all sorts of really cool things that you can do with vanilla PHP, but would be really, really hard.
Allows you to do it in a couple lines of code instead
Right.
of hundreds of lines of codes.
Yeah,
someone else already wrote the hundreds of lines.
Right, and yet it has the fundamentals of PHP are there, so it's something that a lot of people have the skills to have access to. So it makes sense from that point. MySQL, that'd be fun to use one of your more modern databases, but MySQL is ridiculously well supported. There's just a ton of information online. There's lots of people who know it and understand it. And there's just all sorts of advantages there that you evaluate the other up and comers in the market and you think, wow, I guess we'll just go with the tried and true method, right? I mean, the craziest thing that we're doing is that we've built all the data for the website is handled using an API, APIs, and but that's node driven, Node.js, which is pretty new as far as frameworks go. But again, it's JavaScript.
Yeah.
It's web technologies all the way down, man. It's a traditional LAMP stack. It's amazing. I can't. But
it is done in such a way that when we're ready to roll out apps for the different devices, we can do that pretty easily too, because we've done a really good job of separating the display layer from the information layer.
The MCV model, the model view controller, and that's I don't know. It's neat seeing it from that perspective, and then it makes you really respect platforms that do break out and kind of get over. It makes you take a look at Swift for Apple Swift and think, holy cow! No wonder Google struggles so much despite the fact that they've tried and succeeded in building really cool languages that are probably better than Java. They can't get beyond Java. The fact that Apple has gotten that Swift is now officially in your top 10 GitHub /Stack Overflow languages is astounding, really. And that they've made that sort of move in that sort of, at that pace while supporting a full other complementary language. That's hard. And it's been an interesting insight into this world, and it's fun to learn new languages, but it does it does make me really understand the importance of learning the old stable ones, and just from a technology perspective, it's been a very interesting experience having learning about that, and makes for boring news, but sometimes boring is better, man. You want it to just work, and this is how you make it just work.
And so, and herein lies the fundamental difference between the two of us. I focused on the customers. You focused on the technology and engineering behind it.
I know. I don't usually say.
This is awesome. This is why the podcast worked.
I know. It's funny because it's
so
exactly.
True.
So
that's awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
That's cool. So it's gonna be an interesting chapter. So if you want to keep following us, that's where to do it. Yeah. And we're gonna keep plugging away there.
Definitely.
But that wasn't the only thing that happened this week.
No.
was us deciding to work on Majordomo full time. Well, mostly part time since we still have jobs.
Oh, well. Don't tell my boss. One of the things that's interesting to me was that we made the decision actually at the end of the recording last week, Sunday night, and then this week happened, and I was like, "Whoa, did we make a mistake, man?" Wait a second.
But again, it's like we're gonna go out on top. So we want to talk about some other companies as well, and what it is that they're doing. And
I say we hold off on Facebook for a hot second, and
yeah, let's do the classic. We'll warm you up on something else. So Kalanick is back. We're gonna hit some of the goodies here.
Who's Kalanick? Travis Kalanick.
Travis, ex-Uber CEO, who's a troublemaker. Guess what he's getting into? He's getting into real estate. That's right. Specifically, City Storage Systems is the name of the company. What do they do? They buy floundering real estate assets like parking lots and strip malls and stuff and turn them into spaces for the digital area, like e-commerce companies. He invested in a real estate investment company that I don't know if they flip them or not, but they buy a distressed property, fix it up, and then either sell or rent it out. Like, that's classic real estate investing. That's what I do. And it's my other side business. And so I'm like, oh, cool. He's doing his investment fund called 10-100 because and so he put some money in there, and it's interesting. I guess another big focus for City Storage is food delivery, which guess what company they use to deliver food? They use Uber Eats. So how about that? So he's
the good news is it'll be hard for any of his buildings to accidentally kill jaywalkers. So
that's true.
We got that.
That's true. For us. Man, that was bad.
We didn't even bring an article in this week. That's how busy of a week this was. Uber killed a dude with their self-driving car, or a woman, and we didn't even get an article about it.
yeah, that's crazy. They did do that, which I think self-driving cars are going to be fine. I think everybody knows that was bound to happen, and it's like,
well,
it's one of 30 that happened that day.
Well, and the thing is that the reason why I don't think it rises to the top is because, self-driving cars have killed people in times when they shouldn't have, but it was the driver that died, right? In the Tesla, which wasn't a fully autonomous vehicle. And this is one of those situations where the ruling seems to be that a human driver would have hit this person as well. That there's nothing that the car could have done that to have prevented what happened. And so as a consequence, we still haven't had that first like a car killed somebody when a human driver paying attention wouldn't have. But I think even when you get that one, because that eventually is going to happen, even when you get that one, I still don't think it's going to be a major, oh my gosh, I was about to call it a road bump, but that's probably,
well, I mean, and still the cool thing about driverless cars is when that happens, they'll solve it, push out an update, and it won't happen again across the entire fleet. I mean, that's the part that's crazy to me, is like, in theory, you could have a bad car. It could run into problem after problem after problem, and you just slowly but surely fix all those problems. So in theory, each type of accident will only happen once.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like, that's the crazy thought to me, is like, even if today it was only 50% as good, as long as they kept making incremental improvements, eventually we're going to solve them all. And there will probably always be new situations, and they go, okay, we'll just solve that one next.
So this is us not talking about it, but one of the things, the other thing that I noticed,
it's more interesting than his investment company.
Yeah. The other thing that has been really bothering me, because I've heard it's been quite the fodder for talk radio, talking about self-driving cars and stuff, and the concerns about it, and advocates who advocate for slowing down with self-driving cars. This has been a great opportunity for them to get out and yell about safety concerns and everything, which is legitimate, man. Let's make sure they're safe. I get that. But the thing that really bothers me is, and this has always bothered me about people complaining about the trolley problem, which is there's a trolley going down the railroad, there's a Y in the road. If it stays on the course that it's going, it's going to hit 5 people and kill them all. If it switches, it's going to hit 1 person. You're at the switch. What do you decide to do? You have to choose the lesser of 2 evils. And that is such a false choice because humans are so bad at making those decisions in the moment, but we're really, really good at misremembering it. Like our abilities, like eyewitness testimony is notoriously the most unreliable testimony that you can get in court because people just remember things incorrectly. There'll be incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. People are convinced they're not lying, but they just didn't remember it correctly. And we are under the impression that we would make this choice, that if you're going down the road and you see a little kid and a little dog that, and you have to decide which one to hit, which in and of itself, generally speaking, is a false choice. But that you would have the time and the whereabouts to make the decision to hit the dog instead of the kid, which I think all of us would agree, yeah, you should probably do that. But it's a false choice. Nobody has the whereabouts. You react and then you remember, you build a framework of what you think you did. It's just really, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because it's like humans shouldn't drive. If you were to start from scratch, like if we were to have cars today, the idea of putting people in charge of cars would be horrifying. Like that is so insanely dangerous. Are you crazy? You're like, no, but we'll make people practice for an entire year before we let them get on the road. And then they'll have decades of practice to go along with it. Like, yeah, but people are really bad at that sort of thing. Why don't we put a computer in charge of it?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, it's craziness to me. But Kalanick is back. That's the point.
That's the point. Yeah. And he's probably happy he doesn't have his old job at the moment.
Right, yeah.
Having to deal with that. That's probably no fun at all.
You say it went a lot easier for Uber because Kalanick was out. I guarantee you that.
Oh, that's true. Oh my gosh.
People focused on the accident, not the culture of Uber. Because
right. That's a great point. Which is that's good news for them if they're honest with themselves. It's like, yeah, it wasn't about how our culture messed us up because we're being too aggressive and not thinking about safety and other people. For the record, that is the reason, and internal documents show that that's probably the reason. But besides, yeah, but you see, but now they did the right thing, which was said, you know what? We are sorry. It's our fault. We're stopping everything until we figure this out. Unlike another company.
Yeah. What company would you be talking about, James?
I don't know. But before we talk about that other company, should we do our final brought to you by ad?
Yeah, man. So I was thinking that we've got 2 sponsors, so I'm going to surprise James with one of them.
Ooh.
But the first sponsor is that this is brought to you by Majordomo.com. It's a really great website for helping you evaluate the condition of your house.
That sounds interesting.
And say 22 simple questions will get you through the front door, as it were, and then you can start learning more about how to improve your house and where it most needs improvements and stuff.
Oh, that sounds really great. Where do you go to do that?
Majordomo.com. Any web browser will work for you. Even IE5. I don't know if that's true.
That's probably not true. It's funny. In the lead up to us launching it, it suddenly became very clear that absolutely nobody on our development team owns an Android phone. And so I had to go around to a couple of friends and be like, can you just load this website for me? And so I can look around at it and see if it works.
Thankfully, it's Chrome, and I think we all use Chrome, so it's pretty...
That's true. I guess that's true. But it's on a small screen.
No,
so
it was worth taking the time.
Yeah. I didn't find anything that totally... Actually, the one that I found was on our mom's computer. She had Firefox running on something, and it just... One of the charts didn't render correctly. I was like, oh, that's really weird.
Yeah, Firefox.
That's my Firefox. Come on. Now, I think I'm going to, before we get to our next big release, I'm going to go buy an Android phone at like Walmart or something.
I'm totally honest with you, James.
You probably want one.
I kind of want one.
Well,
I'm like, I want like a real one. I don't know. Let's talk about it.
That's the fun part about owning a company. You get to have those conversations.
Exactly.
This is an investment, guys. Really, it is.
Right. So the second sponsor
Yes.
is this episode, and a lot of our episodes have been brought to you by our Patreon supporters, and we've had a couple of them, and we've been really, really grateful for honestly everybody who's supported this show throughout the years. All of our listeners, everybody who's commented on Facebook and commented in real life and asked questions and just been interested and like I said, our Patreon supporters who have actually chipped in and supported us financially. Like we really appreciate everything that everybody's done. And hopefully we didn't disappoint you too much.
And just so those guys know, I was able to figure out how to set it up so you won't be charged going forward into the future.
Yeah.
So I had to set it up where it was a monthly draw, and now it's every time we do a post, it would take money, and we just won't do a post. So problem solved. Trust me. All of a sudden, I'm getting a little low on cash. Like, what the heck? 6 posts in a day? What is this?
Hey, we decided to get back into it. We're
amazing. Doing micro podcasts. You just can't find them yet.
Yeah. So I have a question, James. Did we hashtag delete Facebook of our Facebook page?
Oh, no, we didn't.
Should we?
Should we? Nah, it's whatever. I think we should keep it since it will post definitely. Our last show. Do you still use Facebook? That's a better question.
Yeah, definitely.
How often do you visit and use it?
For organizing parties and Messenger, Facebook properties I use a couple of times a week. I'd say on
a couple times a week.
I'd say
not an hour, not a day.
Definitely not. I would say on average it's more than once a day.
Okay.
Scrolling through, but it might be like 8 to 10 tops.
Per week?
Yeah.
Day? Okay.
Per week. I would, it's like we're organizing. I had a birthday party I went to yesterday, and it was hosted on Facebook. All the details. I am having a bachelor party later this year where I'm inviting friends to Facebook. So for those sorts of things, I do use it. I probably scroll through my news feed once in a while, maybe once every couple of weeks before I realize, it's all garbage. Like and the thing that bothers me too is I'm pretty sure that my friends are more creative and interesting than Facebook leads me to believe. It's just that, whatever reason.
I don't know. Like, I like to think that I'm creative and interesting, but I don't post updates anymore.
Yeah.
And because I don't think about it. And it's interesting when I, for whatever reason, sometimes I have to open it, like for reasons that you stated. And the very first thing on the timeline is an old post of mine, which I'm like, okay, thanks for showing me an old post of mine.
Yeah.
And then right under that's an ad. Like, okay. And then, so I have to I can't just do a single scroll. It's a couple scrolls to get to a new update, something that I haven't seen before. So I'm just like, So like that thing right there just kind of ruined it for me. Whatever. And so it's super easy for me to then tap on where it was I actually wanted to go and not get sucked in.
Yep. And then the other thing that happens is that a lot of what gets posted is just like, well, either I've already seen it on Reddit, which I realize is just it's such a stupid thing to say, but it's true. Or B, it's just not very good or interesting. And that's my problem with Facebook. That's not everybody's problem with Facebook this week, though.
No.
So, okay, I'll want me to set this up?
Set it up.
Dilemma. So, a couple of years ago, Facebook decided that they wanted to create what was called a passport. And at the time, a couple of companies all kind of realized the value of this. And it was the idea that that login wouldn't be handled by a website. It would be handled by Google or Facebook or whoever, or Twitter. They would handle all of the login credentials and user information. And then the website would rely on that information for all of that login stuff. And what the website would get out of it is a very secure, safe login and a lot of user information. What Facebook would get out of it,
and reduced friction for signing up.
Yes,
because
correct.
The idea would be, oh, I don't have to come up with a new username or password. I can just use something I already have. Or if you were, or some things like if you were already logged in, it was like click a button and it'll just do it.
Right. It was a good idea, and everybody was really excited about it. We used to talk about it in the passport, and they called it it was called the passport, and there was this idea of it would be Facebook wanted to be your home
and
address.
They didn't invent the idea, right? I mean,
correct. No,
that had been around a while. Probably Yahoo was the first one to come up with that idea.
But they really wanted to push this. They wanted to be your home address for the internet. You signed up. You signed up for Facebook like you were signing up for AOL back in the day, and that's where you would start. And then Facebook, in reciprocation, would get all of your user data for other websites. They would be able to track your movement across the internet. That was the deal that was going to go with. But this was the thing. Google wanted to do that as well, and at the very same moment, they went into a big push. So there was this competition. Who were websites going to support? The answer was support both. Yeah. But one of the ways that Facebook sweetened the deal to try to get companies more inclined to use Facebook was they said, we will give you extra access to the friend graph. If somebody uses your service and gives you access to their user profile, you'll be able to search on their friends. You'll be able to go one friend deep and get information about their friends. And so you can get like emails and things like that would allow you to
go viral.
To go viral. So that was the idea. That was what that's how Facebook like really sweetened the deal for companies. Well, a lot of companies
makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of companies looked at this and said, hey, that's really great. You're just giving up all this information. If somebody has 500 friends, I need to convince one person, and then I get access to all 500 of their friends, and orders of magnitude more people that I get connection to. So what this one company did was they came up with a clever idea. They created a psychological test, and they told people, hey, please use this, fill this psychological test. You'll be helping us do whatever study. And then if you do this, and sign up through Facebook, then people just signed up for it, took it, about 250,000 people, and then 50 million people's worth of one friend deep were granted access to this company called Cambridge Analytica.
Boom.
Tons of companies were doing this. And what they did is they took that data and they saved it to their own database. Now, they weren't supposed to do that. Nobody was supposed to do that. This is Facebook's proprietary information. Facebook's entire value rests on the fact that they have proprietary information about billions of people.
Yeah.
Like, that's their value proposition. But they were willing to basically allow people to cheat on the premise that it would help Facebook in the long run, because if somebody cheated a little bit, at least Facebook would get information about what that user was doing on that other website. And so it was this reciprocation thing that was technically illegal, or against the terms of service, but Cambridge Analytica did it anyways, and kind of everybody did it anyways. So Cambridge Analytica ends up with 50 million people's worth of personal information that they were able to use to do all sorts of data analysis. The very sort of data analysis that Facebook wants to be able to sell to people. Facebook's not particularly happy about what Cambridge Analytica was doing because that's their value. They don't want you to buy Facebook user data. They want you to buy Facebook user analysis.
User insights, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, Facebook, they knew that if they could get the whole passport thing going and accepted and supported everywhere, that it would benefit them in the long run. So they were willing to give up a little bit of your user security for that. So anyways, Turns out Trump got elected. Trump used Cambridge Analytica, and this has been known. This has been an open secret for years. It's not even an open secret. This has just been openly known that it was going on, which is why Facebook changed their terms of service years ago so that you couldn't just access all of this information about friends one user deep. You could only get access to certain types of information. It was a lot more protected. Facebook has made the changes necessary because they knew companies were doing this and it was bad for their business long term.
I like that that's the rationale too.
Yeah. So it's just it's great. Well, anyway, so Trump got elected, and now people are upset. Um, and yeah, and Cambridge Analytica is at the forefront of this. So that sort of brings us to this week because the news was breaking. And yeah, and then somebody
Hashtag delete Facebook.
hashtag delete Facebook started to trend
Which no one's
on
gonna do, but yeah,
on
sounds
on
good.
Twitter. Not nobody, James. Somebody, and that somebody was Elon Musk, my hero. Turned out,
Oh yeah.
turned out somebody on Twitter told him, "Hey, you have you like the Tesla and SpaceX."
Well, he
Facebook,
was bashing Facebook
right?
on Twitter, like these guys messed up royally. Like, don't trust them. And that was when someone decided to point out to him, like, dude, you have a Facebook page.
Yeah, and he responded back by saying, "I did not know that. I was completely unaware of it. I'll take care of it right now." And like 20 minutes later, both the SpaceX and Tesla Facebook pages, which had millions of active users, they were active forums, gone.
So our co-founder, he wants to get a Tesla so bad he can't stand it, and he's on the wait list for the Model 3.
Yeah.
And he follows a lot of what Tesla does on their Facebook page. So he was kind of like, A, that's awesome, but B, oh, that was my news source.
Yeah. I know. It's funny. I
Like, you'll
mean,
figure it out.
Elon Musk has it was that one conference, I can't remember which one it was, with Walt Mossberg, and he was asking him
The
about,
D,
yeah, I think it was all things D. And but Walt Mossberg was asking him about AI and why he was so concerned about it.
yeah.
And Elon was talking about the fact that, it's what really concerns him isn't necessarily AI on its own, but it's AI in the hands of a small elite group of people. And particular people scare him. And those particular people run some of the biggest tech companies on earth. And he didn't go further than that, but it was heavily implied that it was Larry Page and Mark Zuckerberg. And
Yeah.
I think we can confirm one of the two at this point.
Yeah.
It's he's not a fan of Mark's, and which I tend to disagree with, but I know that a lot of people think I'm crazy for not being afraid of Mark. Part of it is we pay
I
attention.
think I was afraid of him until like maybe 6 years ago, and he turned a maturity corner, and clearly he's not there yet. But I think at some point in time he realized, like, oh, this is actually a real company, and there's people who depend on me and jobs that matter, and I'm gonna try my best now, and I'm gonna try not to be evil. He still gets tempted, but I think this was one of them.
Yeah.
But I think he's like, yeah, okay, I got to do this right. And he gets it. Whether or not he can execute on it is one thing, but I think he understands what the goal is, what the bar is. Whereas I don't think he did 7 years ago.
Yeah, and a lot of people throw out the fact that when he was in college and he first started Facebook, and that instant message thread where he made the comment of, "Hey, if you ever want anybody's email or anything, let me know." And the person asked, "How'd you get this?" And he said, "People are just giving it to me. These idiots trust me." Edited for for language. And a lot of people throw that stuff out there, and I'm like, dude, I said some pretty messed up stuff about people in college, like real bad stuff. If you were to like get a log of some of the stuff I said during college, just stupid stuff, like, and probably stuff that I kind of believed, at least on some level, not just trying to be funny. Like, people are idiots in college. Do they grow up? Then maybe that's what you judge them on. If Mark was still a college student in charge of Facebook, that'd be a concern. But just because he said it back then, I don't think necessarily means it's what he believes now. But it's good fodder.
Yes, it does. Okay.
I know. This is just classic Facebook apology.
This is why you should delete your Facebook account so people can't go back and read that stuff.
I know. So. Yeah, right. Exactly. So the thing with me is I'm obviously coming at this from the position of the only reason people care is because Trump got elected president. Which, hey, that's why I don't. People knew about this before.
They should have cared a lot earlier.
Yeah,
it's more like welcome to the party.
Exactly. I didn't care back then because I understood what was going on. So it's hard for me to start.
If this is one of the reasons why I get a lot of spam email, then I care. But otherwise, yeah, I don't.
Really right. Exactly. But it's, yeah, I mean, like I didn't, just because of this particular consequence, I don't care more because of this particular consequence of what Facebook did than any of the other consequences. I was already at peace with it on some level, so I'm still not bothered by it. And I
think you're in the majority.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think most people don't care that much, or they're glad. Yeah, because remember, I realized he only got like 45% of the votes, but like 45% of voting Americans did vote for him. And there's lots of people who are probably not super disappointed that this was the outcome. But one of the things that I appreciate just from Facebook's perspective is the full apology tour. It's meaninless. I don't think Mark actually believes it, but I think the fact that that was the perspective from within the company was that was their best marketing move. That was the best move to recovering their brand. I think it was smart.
Yeah, but it was their last move. They should have started with that.
Oh yeah, it took them way too long to figure that out. But
well, and is his first statement. There was no apology whatsoever.
Yeah,
and it was both him and
Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah, neither one of them. Heck, in their company meeting where they came out and said, "So this is happening," neither one of them actually showed up to that meeting. It was just their lawyer.
Well, the rumor mill was that the two of them were going locked in battle because one of them, and there's been no word on which was which. One of them wanted the full apology, just complete repentance, ask for forgiveness. The other wanted to stand their ground and said, we did nothing wrong. And
guess.
Don't apologize. Well, yeah, everybody's got to guess. And nobody will say which one was which. But in the end, the full apology, just uncompromising.
Cheryl won. Well, they tried it his way and it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, no one really knows whose way it was. I mean,
yeah, exactly. You can see the engineer thought process going through, which is what I just said, where Mark's like, we changed the policy years ago because we knew that this was going to be a problem. Why is it a problem now?
Why is it our fault?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they broke the terms of service. Yeah, I don't know. But that being said, I thought Scott Galloway actually changed my perspective on a little bit. His perspective was...
By the way, if you're looking for a real quick tech fix on what's going on, replace us with him. He's on YouTube. And he's on a podcast, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I don't agree with him 100% of the time, but I find it very hard to ever think it's uninteresting.
Yeah, that's true.
And he... so one of his, he comes up with a couple, it's worth watching the YouTube video. I don't know how much I need to recap what he said, but he kind of gets into what he thinks Facebook should have done. And the idea that he appreciates the fact that Facebook has come out and basically said, hey, we need to be regulated. That wasn't one of Galloway's recommendations of what Facebook should do, but it's the same vein of, it is hard for Facebook to be the one. They are in a very tough position because people want them to be able to kind of regulate the content of their site, right? Because this is all mixed in with Russian involvement in the American election, and how do you regulate that? Is if Facebook does it, there's the problem that if they go too tight of a filter, then they'll get in trouble for that. If they get too loose of a filter, they'll get in trouble for that. Facebook wants to put it on somebody else. They're basically saying, hey, government, regulate us so that we're not the ones to blame. We can blame you, which is smart. And it also puts them in a better competitive position, because if they self-regulate, then they have the issue that other platforms will then say, oh, we'll be the unregulated place that anybody can go to. And that's a threat to Facebook.
Right.
But if there's,
Twitter.
Exactly. But if it levels the playing field, then Facebook has no problem playing along.
What is wrong with Twitter? I feel like they should be blowing up these last couple of years, and they just cannot seem to figure it out. I don't get it. Like Lyft, they seem to be growing huge year over year. It's doing great. They're able to take advantage of all the woes of Uber, and just Twitter cannot. I don't get it. I like Twitter more than Facebook. I visit Twitter once or twice a day, and I don't understand why. Something about it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's because they don't want to I think they want to be different than Facebook.
I know, but they should still be like, they've got the president of the United States actively using it and creating emotions of all sorts, which is usually good for user interaction and use. And I mean, that was Facebook's thing. And they got Facebook having all sorts of issues at the moment, and I don't know, they just can't take advantage of it.
It is pretty amazing that Twitter is not making money.
Or at least not growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's one of the things that was very interesting to me when we were doing the
by the way, jamesfurlo.com. No, what is it? James at James Furlo on the Twitter.
Yeah.
You can follow me.
So
we used to give that as part of our intro. I remember that.
That's true. I'd have a new one nowadays.
What's your new one?
MatthewFurlo.com/kilo mile.
Kilo mile.
Yeah, KILO.
MatthewFurlo.com/KILOMILE.
Yeah.
Kilo mile. Whoa, what's that?
Yeah,
200. So 2008 kilo mile. You've run 257 miles this year.
Yeah.
This week you run 26 miles. I'm guessing that goes through Sunday.
Yeah. So it's Sunday. Sunday to yeah.
Okay. You do 21 miles on average per week. And so you are 26.9 miles ahead of your goal. And you're 41.4% of a megameter. What's a megameter?
Yeah. So there's 1,000 bytes in a kilobyte. There's 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte. So a megameter is 1,000 kilometers.
Okay.
So I'm trying to run a
chart here.
Yeah.
Wow, look at you getting all fancy dancy.
I know. Turns out it's super easy. You just it's a couple of different it's just JavaScript and
Who are you pulling the data from?
That's actually the best part. So there's a Heroku app that is connected to my Raspberry Pi, actually locally, that has a simple database on it. It's so basically.
How do you populate the database? Do you have to manually do it?
No, there's endpoints. It's the key. There's an endpoint for writing to the database that sends information to Heroku. Heroku then sends it to my Raspberry Pi where it's saved, then sends information back. It's complicated, but there's a reason for it. That's because that's the essential infrastructure for building a Internet of Things device that you can control with a Google Home. I
still feel like you haven't answered my fundamental question, which is is this getting it from your Apple's? Where's the?
No. I built an iPhone app where I type in how many miles I wrote, and then I hit a button, and then it sends the information.
Okay.
There's.
All right.
I'm nervous about saying this.
You have too much time on your hands.
I don't have too much time on this. It sounds okay. I realize that it sounds super complicated, but it's a bunch of skills that I have that are all sort of that I realized. I did a little research. I was reading an Instructable on how to build an Internet of Home device.
You need a share button, by the way, on your website. Just thought I'd point that out for you.
You're absolutely right. And then I was doing a little bit of research about it, and I was reading all this different steps to do it, and I was like, I can do all of this. I know how to do all of this. And so I decided just to do it one day, and it took me a couple hours to get it done. But The hardest part was that upper on the website, that upper like thing with all the different, it's a bunch of div tables and stuff, and making that look right was really hard for me because I have like very little CSS skill. Everything else is just little like JavaScript, packages that I downloaded. It's complicated, but like I said, it happens to be a bunch of skills that I have. Anyways,
that's cool.
That's what I'd be sharing. Yeah, thanks for that. This episode brought to you by. So I don't know. So anyway, Scott Galloway. So I think one of the things that they should do is they have to figure out how to get a third party, whether that's some sort of a democratic system. I think there needs to be a third party.
We totally talked about this. Like back during the election, the whole fake news thing. We were like, I mean, I personally thought that what they should do, they should create their own third party that they run and manage, but then that third party can be used or subscribed to by other companies as well. And that's kind of like their gift to the world. Call it facebook.org or something like that, or realnews.org.
They've got to do that. They've got to get that part of that piece of it under the hand. Something that's they're not in charge of, but they are obliged to.
And I'm even okay if they fund it, they employ it, they house it. It's
everybody will kind of give it the stink eye if they do that. But if it's actually, auditable as a third party thing, and there's some sort of a democratic voice involved in it, I think that there's a way to structure something like that where you could definitely get, you put it into a trust and you say Facebook funds the trust, but we're not in charge of this and they're not obliged to us. And if you do some sort of a legal...
I feel like there's so many solutions to this.
Yeah. But I completely agree. I think Facebook doing it internally is just fraught with too many problems. They have to push this onto somebody else. They have to be impartial, because anything that Facebook does is going to be judged as though it's not impartial, including having an algorithm do it. They tried that and it just didn't, it runs into the same problem.
Well, they need some sort of hybrid thing. I'm thinking kind of like what Apple does with their App Store, where it's like, we've got some automated tools and checks, but at the end of the day, it all runs through a real human being. It's kind of like if the URL is newyorktimes.com, we give that one the benefit of the doubt. And there's a whitelist, and perhaps a growing whitelist of those, where as new articles get submitted, they go, is it one of these whitelisted ones? All right, cool. Let her on through. And there's ones that aren't. That's what you're doing, is for that article, maybe the very first time you're thumbs upping, thumbs downing that article. And maybe it takes a little bit longer the first time it's submitted. But then if you go, this is a reputable source in general, boom, whitelist it and you're good to go. And then you've got opportunities for individuals to flag it, and it sends it back to them to go, well, let's double check this, and you get a second pair of eyes on it. And maybe that's part of the process too. You don't have one person looking at it, you've got two or three. And if you got, maybe you start off with two, and if two agree, you go, cool. If not, then you bring in a third person and you talk about it. And I feel like Apple's decently fast about checking apps, and I feel like you get that same way with articles.
Yeah, and if they could somehow figure out how to get those people outside of Facebook, not directly employed by Facebook, I think that would be huge. I don't know exactly what that means.
Again, I think it's that idea like you're talking about, where Facebook gives $1 million a month, or whatever the right number is, to this organization who then takes care of it. And Facebook just feeds into it. And eventually, if, say, they make it a point to say Twitter should employ our services as well, which simply it's an API that gives a check. Yes, it's good or bad.
Right.
And that's it. It's a simple flag. And they say, Twitter, we want you to pay into it, and you're going to pay us a penny per link.
Right. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like when you talk about, rating of debt risk, right? What, Moody's? Is that the name of the company?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe you give a percentage, right? We're not going to tell you yes or no. We're going to give you, here's our confidence level of it.
Yeah, this news source is a AAA news source. And then it would be a huge deal if you got upgraded or downgraded. Like, we keep talking about those sorts of solutions to this sort of a problem. It's tough, but if Facebook were to actually make a big financial commitment, and really and truly, I think what the best thing for them to do would be to make a legal financial long-term commitment. We are putting this chunk of money aside in a trust that we do not have control over for this purpose, and make it a Moody's-esque sort of bond rating type thing where, like you said, New York Times, Washington Post, they get AAA status. And
maybe you have everyone apply and you charge everybody $5 and that's what you do. And your $5 application fee is to get rated.
Yeah.
And and that's it. And so if it doesn't have a rating, that should tell you something as well. And that's an incentive for, even little guys like us, you go, yeah, sure. What the heck? It makes us feel like we're official. I'll pay $5 to get rated. Why not?
Yeah.
And then then each individual company can decide what they want to do with that.
Right. Yeah. Cause my particular political leanings, I'm not a huge fan of the idea of the government being in charge of this. And it's just because of speed reasons, things move too fast. But I do think that a third party would be very valuable in this sort of thing.
And it's got to be one of those where when you first get started, it's overwhelming to hit everybody, and it's going to be slow at first. But after a while, like all you're doing is vetting the new ones, and it can't be that crazy.
Yeah, hey James,
maybe it is
a new startup idea. There's probably 100,000 different companies that do this already, right? And I don't know. So one of the other things that was really interesting, that I like, because hey man, he started this podcast and this podcast, but Steve Jobs warned Mark early on, not specifically but to his face. It was probably in All Things D. I feel like he was talking to Walt Mossberg again, but talking about privacy. And Steve Jobs made the comment. Mark Zuckerberg was literally in the audience when Steve said this, but he basically laid out the idea that privacy should be protected, and people should understand what privacy they're giving up when they sign up for something, for a service, whatever. It should be in plain English, and they should understand their what their expectations are. It shouldn't be behind a giant terms of service monolith of text. And then he made the comment that if you respect people's privacy and you explain what you're going to do with it and why, people will give you a tremendous amount of their information still. And that you need to trust that people will. And it's funny because in my experience, man, that's true. It's one of the interesting parts about this whole dilemma is that as upset as everybody is, nothing's going to very, very few people are going to delete Facebook. And Facebook, this is the right time to buy. If you want to buy Facebook, man, do it right now because the stock is down and it's going to come back.
Oh, dude, Robinhood. We haven't talked about them in a while. Use Robinhood. Right? It's a free app.
Yeah. And because this is just a classic example of, Equifax stock prices up. Should have bought them when they were going through the whole thing because like we predicted, nothing was going to happen and their stock came back. Same with Facebook. But that's because people don't care that much. They don't care about their security. They don't care about their privacy that much.
Look at this. There's a chart for Facebook.
What? So
down and to the right. Oh, man. How much is it? It's only $160 a share.
Get into it, man.
Dang. I should get into it. Twitter's down as well. You stinking Twitter.
But, yeah, I mean, it's just
38% return.
I bet within 6 months, Facebook is back to where they should have been prior to.
Dude, you're so right.
And
they'll have another earnings report. It turns out we made a ton of money. All right, stock's back up.
Yeah.
Man, if I had an extra $160 sitting around, I know what I'd buy.
Exactly.
Turn it into $150. And what do I turn into? $180.
Yeah. I told Diana.
Take my wife out to dinner.
I told Diana that, and
actually that wouldn't pay for babysitting. So
I made that exact statement to Diana that right now is the time to buy Facebook. She's like, how much should I buy? Like, Diana, That's the sort of thing I say, not the sort of thing I do.
It's like, how much money do you have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's put 40 grand into this. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. Yeah, and there's just, I don't know. I think I did like this as well. Tumblr, at the very end of the week, announced that they are trying to remain relevant by.
Yeah, they're still around. Who are they owned by now? Is it the AOL or Verizon or whoever bought Yahoo?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. They were so cool for like 6 months.
Exactly.
And then they sold right at the top. See, that's what we're doing. They were cool, and then they sold out, and it was just kind of like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, exactly. But they are trying to stay relevant by revealing that they have fake Russian accounts too, guys. And they have like,
guys, us too. We have problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And that's exactly what it feels like. Just totally like, oh my God, there's Russians here. Put us in the news. Remind everybody we exist. Nobody cares about you, Tumblr. You didn't get anybody elected ever.
Teenagers stopped using you a while ago.
I know. Yeah,
I think I still have a Tumblr account. I think I deleted the Tumblr app, so I can't. Yeah.
It's one of the things that is interesting to me is that there's this argument about how, a lot of this stuff is just about what's popular. It's just where people are. And you look at Tumblr as a perfect example of that, where these things can just fall out from underneath them so quickly because if people stop thinking you're cool, they'll stop using your service. And that's what Facebook's in danger of. I've been saying it for years, and I come back. I still think it's true. I don't think I think they're too big to fail in some way at this point. Like, even if you wanted to delete Facebook, it's hard. It's hard to
hard.
A lot of people who deleted their Facebook app and tried to delete their account still flip through Instagram and use WhatsApp. Like, it's just you can't get them out of your hair. They're amazing in their ability to, get deep into where people are, because
they just got a good sense of habits and what people like to do, and they buy those companies, and they are one themselves. And
so I don't know. I don't think
it's one of those where I just naturally don't use them very often anymore. So I'm like, whatever.
And it's not because it's not for any moral reason. It's because they're just not that interesting.
Yeah.
Get a better news feed, guys, and you'll get me like a crack addict. Don't worry. But
Paper, that was their pinnacle.
Yeah.
That app was awesome.
I used Paper all the time, and it's gone now.
Sad.
So I got a couple of more things.
Okay, we could do it. We could do it quick. Why not? So last episode.
Exactly. So Google bought Lytro this week.
Who's Lytro?
Lytro is the field lens camera company. They were this like cool company where it was this cool camera where you take a picture of something and then you could adjust the field of view, the focus.
Yeah. After the fact. Yeah, I remember that.
And they sold these like expensive cameras that had this one trick. I thought it was really cool. Nobody cared because it turns out that camera people people who would have cared about something like this were buying cameras where they wanted to control the focus on their own, and people who could have used something like that to be able to do it in post.
Weren't going to pay that much money.
But turns out that this stuff is super great for filming 3D footage.
Oh,
interesting.
That's
like, and actually that's what Lytro has been moving into, is building much bigger professional scale 3D cameras. They've actually done some really, really neat VR style experiences. I haven't been able to do it in VR, but I've seen the demo for the promo for it. But essentially what it was is they got a bunch of people and a choir together and had this huge choir performance in a church, in like one of your old cathedrals. So you get all the tones, the music and everything, and they got really great recording information. So you got the 3D sound going on. They recorded the performance with a Lytro camera, and then they got a VR or a 360 camera to record the rest of the church. And they stitched all that together so that you get this thing where you can see a live performance of this music, and you can walk around in a big area inside of the church, so you can actually like change views and stuff. So you're not a fixed focus, which is that's like the dream, is being able to do that.
That's cool.
With 3D information. I guess it's really, really, really compelling. And so Google's pretty excited about it. And as they're trying to break into VR, they decided to buy this camera company.
I like it.
Getting into hardware.
Excellent.
And then...
which, by the way, since we're not going to do our prediction show at the end of the year, I at least got one prediction right. That's good. Which was that Nest was going to be part of Google.
Oh, yeah.
So I still feel compelled to let everybody know that.
Honestly, we got a bunch of our predictions right. I can't already.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull it up because I think I wrote them all down.
So then the other two things that that I wanted to bring up really quick was, number one, NBA is going to be, as they continue to spearhead the tech revolution in sports, they're going to be offering 99-cent fourth quarter streams, or they're testing that out at least, which I think is a great idea because generally speaking, man, you hear about a game that's blowing up at the last minute on Twitter, you jump over, you want to watch the last couple of minutes for 99 cents. I could be suckered into that on a regular basis. And I think that's really smart, and I love what the NBA is doing, pushing forward tech in their league. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is solidly moving out of the tech category, but it's Black Panther has become the highest grossing comic book movie of all time in America for now, as long as you don't adjust for inflation. But it beat Marvel's The Avengers.
Wow.
Finally, yeah. And Justice League 2. It actually beat Justice League in like the first 4 days, but that's besides the point. That's astounding to me. That's so big. And so it turned out, or like I was talking to my fiance about, we're getting ready to go see the new Avengers movie when it comes out. And I think I mentioned to you this to you offline, but she had not seen the original Avengers movie. Turns out she revealed to me this week. I had to clarify with her after that conversation. It's like, okay, just for the record, you've seen all the Back to the Future movies, right? And the Jurassic Park movies and Star Wars. Are there any other ones that I should know about that you haven't seen? But we watched Marvel's The Avengers last night, and her review was pretty good. She liked it.
That's good. That's always a good sign.
So So what are we doing? Are we doing our post-diction show right now? How good do we do?
No, no, I don't think so.
All right.
It's all right. It's okay. Well, any last thoughts? Any final thoughts for the final show? You didn't know I was going to ask you that, but that's cool.
I didn't. I don't know. It's been fun, man. It's been interesting. It'll be weird having my Sunday night back after all of these years.
Well, I'll still probably call you regularly to talk about Majordomo.
I know, but it'll be different.
That's true.
Yeah, man. What about you?
Well, I personally, it's a good show. I enjoyed doing it. I will probably miss it regularly. And I think my favorite part, and I think a lot of people's favorite part, were the predictions and then watching them come true. That was definitely fun. And those are probably those two episodes at the beginning and end of the year, probably my favorite ones. I wish that we could have done more on-site stuff, like traveling to
CES,
Consumer Electronic Expo and stuff. That would have been pretty sweet, but that's all right. We may have an excuse to do it through Majordomo. We'll have to figure out how to justify that. I don't know how, but we'll work on it. And yeah, man, it's been good. I'll talk to you on Tuesday, so it's not like I'm never going to talk to you again. But I agree. It's been real. So for the final time, I want to thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. You'll be able to check out all the links to this show on furlobros.com/332. That's 332. You don't really need to subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play at this point. It's all good. And but we do want to say thank you. First and foremost, we want to say thank you to the people who provided articles for us this week. That would be one of them was The Hustle that was talking about Kalakanik. Also, Scott Galloway from Winners and Losers, and Ajit Romano from Vox, Mike Murphy, Sean Gallagher, Roman Dillett, John Fingress, and then finally Rob Lefebvre for all of the Facebook stuff. And then finally, we want to thank Ingrid London, Brian Heater, and Morella Moon for their article contributions as well. So thanks, guys, for writing good stuff. Don't stop just because we're not going to be reading them all the time anymore. Keep going. And then finally, we want to say that this podcast is sponsored by listeners just like you. And we actually have 4 sponsors. And so we want to say thank you to all 4 of them. The first one is Dave Villani. Thank you for your excellent patronage. For Diana Genetti. Getty is something else. Diana, who's soon to be Diana, maybe Furlo. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. She's the person you're marrying, so that's cool. Our mom, of course, you always have to get sponsored by your mom. And so, Mom, we appreciate it. And then Stefan Maslicki, a guy from our childhood church. Thanks, Stefan, for believing in us. And so this podcast is also sponsored by Majordomo, like we talked about. We talked a lot about it. .com, Majordomo.com. Go check out Majordomo.com. That's where we're spending all of our time. And so on that note, finally, I am James Furlo, and my co-host, brother, friend, pal is Matthew Furlo. And thank you for listening. Wow, that sounded really like official. Thanks for listening. That was better.